China begins 2025 with a near-continuous presence of its 165-metre monster Coast Guard vessel in the Philippines' exclusive economic zone off the main island of Luzon. A further 60 to 70 nautical miles west of the Chinese Coast Guard presence is Scarborough Shoal, seized by China in 2012. The West Philippine Coast Guard says Beijing seeks to normalise its presence in this area and thereby change the status quo. Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. Joining us today are Liu Fu-kuo, National Chengchi University Institute of International Relations Research Fellow, and Ronan Fu, Academia Sinica Institute of Political Science Assistant Research Fellow. Very warm welcome to both of you on the show today. Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Jay Tariella says China's 5901 monster ship has been focused on the fourth dash line, you can see here, of China's 10 dash line, based on what it says are historical claims. Beijing said the ship and its entourage are carrying out patrol and law enforcement activities in waters that lie within the Philippines' 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, according to the law of the sea. From January 3rd to the 9th, the 5901 was present 65 to 70 nautical miles off the coast of the province of Zambales on the main Philippine island of Luzon. It returned on January 13th. Two of the largest, most modern Philippine Coast Guard vessels, including the 97-metre Teresa Mabanwa, have been deployed to challenge, outmaneuver the monster ship's presence. Additionally, several other Chinese Coast Guard vessels have been present in this area, taking turns to loiter off Zambales. This is Tariella on X. The goal is to normalise such deployments, and if these actions go unnoticed and unchallenged, it will enable them to alter the existing status quo. This strategy of normalisation following by altering the status quo and ultimately operationalising their illegal narrative has consistently been part of the Chinese playbook. Professor Liu, let me come to you first. So what do you think is Beijing's intention in terms of the monster ship in the very first days of 2025?
Right. Actually, before the end of 2024, Chinese government actually sent a few Coast Guard ships surrounding this particular area. But the Philippines also sent the largest, what they have, Coast Guard ship to counter Chinese Coast Guard ship and trying to keep them this distance away from the coastline of the Philippines. So then Chinese government perhaps consider they would have to present much stronger power in the region. Just looking back a week before, Chinese government did not really made it as they originally planned, with smaller Coast Guard ship getting closer to the Philippines coastline.
So what do you think they were doing getting so close to the Philippine coast?
Of course, from normal sense, we would know they want to conduct reconnaissance and also surveillance, not just coastline, but also under the sea. So they want to explore what they can discover, of course, for the better use thereafter as important intelligence information in this particular area.
Oh, what sort of intelligence do you think that they are thinking could be on this particular coast?
Because as you just pointed out the location to the west of the coastline, which is Scarborough Shoal. And I think currently this is the hotspot for China and the Philippines. So they want to perhaps from this particular sense, they want to learn how much or how many they can come from the coastline to reinforce the Philippines Coast Guard in time of a crisis. So I do think they were trying to learn how close and also the sea and also even the currents in this particular area. So China will be able to get much better preparation for the worst to come.
Okay. Ronan, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah, so I would like to follow add that it could also serve as a litmus test to see how much resolve that the Filipino side is going to show, what kind of counter strategies that the Filipino administration is going to employ.
Right.
That's also another consideration.
Okay. Professor Liu, what do you think would happen if the Philippines had done the same thing at the end of 2024, sent a group of their Coast Guard ships, even if they were smaller, to surveil very, very close to the Chinese coast?
because on the basic line, there is dramatic differences. Currently, there is a dispute between China, the Philippines. Looking from Chinese perspective, this is actually overlapping with 10-dash line area. So if such things are happening, if the Philippines send their Coast Guard closer to China, I think the situation will be dramatically different. Number one, there is no legal basis for the disputed parties to get involved in this reconnaissance closer to the coastline.
But I think, I mean, are you calling the Chinese claim a legal claim, the historical claim?
Yes, yes.
You're calling that a legal claim?
This is a difficult part because looking from the history, Republic of China, which now is Taiwan, started coming into the South China Sea long before UN Convention on the Law of Sea was signed in 1982.
But there were many countries that came into that area.
Yes, yes.
Not just the ROC.
Right. No. Earlier time, only ROC. After the end of the war, even...
No, I'm talking about 1500s, early times. It's been documented. It's not just the ROC.
Yeah, of course. In the history, only bigger power will utilize such a remote area in the sea. So obviously China was the one larger dynasty utilizing the South China Sea and also the shipping lane.
I think that's been disputed. We can come back to that a little bit later in question 2. So Ronan, what do you think of, in terms of what Jay Tariello is saying, the altering of the status quo? China already controls Scarborough Shoal. We said that it seized Scarborough Shoal in 2012. So what do you think is that status quo it wishes to change?
Yeah, so before I actually answer your question, let me offer a broader perspective in terms of what they actually doing. So the strategy they are doing is actually incrementalism, oftentimes referred as the salami slicing strategy, meaning that you try to change the status quo bit by bit, piece by piece, right? So that when you slice a salami, right? So like you slice, and it's all gone, right? So that's the essential strategy. So they are not trying to overtake new territories overnight. This is not their goal. Their goal is to make what is happening on the ground a perceived reality in the future. So that's the reason why they're incrementally increasing, for example, the vessels, some maritime activities, and the artificial islands construction. Those are basically exercises to enhance the perception that China is currently under, so the contested territory or contested waters are under the control of PRC, and it's going to be a perceived reality. But obviously, other countries, including the Philippines and perhaps also Taiwan, are going to argue against that claim.
Professor Liu, so recently there was a summit, an online summit between the leaders of the Philippines, the US and Japan. It followed, of course, the first of its kind summit in April 2024. So that was Joe Biden, Ishiba Shigeru, and also obviously Ferdinand Marcos. And the three of them vowed that they would deepen their trilateral cooperation and that they also discussed, quote, China's dangerous and unlawful behavior in the South China Sea. Within the South China Sea, are there countries that support Beijing's narrative?
Basically, countries in the region present a very different view. They don't, in general terms, they just want the peace in the South China Sea, protect freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. But it would be very hard, except the Philippines. Country in the Southeast Asia would come up to say that they cannot accept Chinese claim, or they will support the Philippines. So basically, most of the country in the region trying to keep it neutral with regard to this dispute between the Philippines and China, because almost every country realize the conflict between China and the Philippines is actually behind the scene, the US and China strategic competition.
The other countries, the other claimants in the South China Sea Ronan, Professor there said his opinion was that they believed that it was actually between the US and China. What are your thoughts on that? And also, you know, what their position has been in relation to the 2016 arbitral ruling, and when they have been vocal or public about the times when China has actually made incursions into their own space, like, for example, Indonesia, Malaysia, they tend to quote the international law of UNCLOS. What's your view? Right.
Yeah, so we have to look into two different dimensions. Number one is the strategy. So on strategy, I largely agree with Professor Liu that it's very difficult for the South Asian countries to really pick a side. So they are going to hedge, continually hedging. That is to be expected. But on the a vocal stance, I think what they will also try to do is, in certain occasions, they are going to condemn China's some aggressive or assertive stances. And also, I think that what I want to point out is actually the strategy played by the Filipino side is quite successful at the very moment. So the strategy basically is that, number one, they're trying to adhere to the international law, number one. So that's like a legal front. Number two, they're playing like a victim card, basically.
Are they playing the victim card, or is it true that there is a massive imbalance in China's forces versus the Philippines?
I'm not saying that they are not victimized by China, for example. I do believe that there's some violation of international law. Basically, it's an infringement on the Filipino sovereignty. I agree with that, and they are, being in a sense bullied by Chinese, and that sort of sentiment is being shared by a lot of countries. Yeah.
Now, as we know, sovereignty of Scarborough Shoal has been claimed by both the Philippines and China. In early December, an ancient map was handed over to Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Take a look.
This Murillo Velarde 1734 map, or Carta Hydrográfica y Chorográfica de las Islas Filipinas, is widely regarded as the mother of all Filipino maps. Beyond its intricate detail and craftsmanship, it is a defining testament to the deep historical roots of our very identity as a nation. Created by Jesuit cartographer Pedro Murillo Velarde and brought to life by two Filipinos, Francisco Suarez and an artist, Nicolas de la Cruz Bagay, who engraved it, the map encapsulates not just the geographical contours of our archipelago, but also the vibrant interplay of cultures, of peoples, and traditions that define our nation. The Murillo Velarde map, in particular, provided critical evidence to demonstrate that the Philippines has continuously exercised authority and jurisdiction over what is now identified as Panakot Shoal, now Scarborough Shoal.
So let's take a look at the 1734 map of the Philippines. If we zoom in, we can see a feature very close to the Philippine coast labeled Panakot, which is the Tagalog for Scarborough. It is the first recorded use of that name. The line that you can see separating Panakot from the main island of Luzon translates as route to Spain, a sailing route. And here is the first ROC 11-dash line map. 2 dashes were subsequently removed by Mao Zedong following warming ties with Vietnam. This map was printed in 1947 by the Secretariat of Guangdong Province, showing the map of Nanhai Islands. Professor Liu, so on this original 1947 map, I think you're quite familiar with it, there is no Scarborough Shoal indicated as part of the ROC's 11-dash line. Can you help to explain the Chinese claim over Scarborough Shoal in particular?
Immediately after the end of the Second World War, countries in the region at that time, mostly still colonized by European powers, French in particular, invaded in some of Paracel's small islands. So nationalist government, which was Republic of China in Nanjing, sent the troops, engage with French troops in the South China Sea, and later, through diplomatic negotiation, push them back. So from then on, the government in Nanjing was reminded we have to make the map clear. So that was the the context why the government, encouraged by the United States, drew this 11-dash line. And actually, very interesting story was the nationalist government, after long war with Japan, at that time was so difficult. They did not have fully equipped naval vessels. So we borrowed American naval vessels to conduct this scientific research into the region. So as you pointed out quite rightly, that was the first map drew this 11-dash line. So many small shelves and reef and island were not on that particular map because it was so complicated. We cannot really jump 50, 60 years later to compare why the people and the government then did not really draw this particular reef. They only put a significant big one, like Taiping Island, Ituaba, and also other big one. So the rest of a small one, actually during this particular time, not that many people really visit land or use those reef, shelf.
So in a previous show, you spoke about how strategic Scarborough Shoal is for China. When did that strategic significance begin? Roughly which year?
I can't remember a specific year when it becomes so critically important. But as a modern military technology comes up, Chinese and also the Philippine government, as well as American government, realize Scarborough Shoal position in this strategic position. And also looking into the land features Scarborough Shoal has, it's right next to a deep sea, which is good for submarine to pass by. So if Scarborough Shoal can be turned into such a strategic outpost, then it would be extremely useful. This is one thing. The other one is Scarborough Shoal surrounded with very rich biodiversity, biological resources.
Yeah.
So that is a reason why Philippines fishermen and also fishing community always keep Scarborough Shoal as one of the big destinations. They want to utilize
the fishermen rely on it for their living, and I think
exactly,
the arbitral ruling also said that it was open to both Chinese and Philippine fishers. You also mentioned in a previous show about the strategic triangle. So that was Woody Island, Scarborough Shoal, as well as
Fiery Cross.
Fiery Cross, right. And so do you believe that perhaps this activity that we see very close to Scarborough Shoal is about perhaps laying the ground for doing construction work for militarizing Scarborough Shoal? Because you mentioned that in the past show as well.
Quite possible. According to the internet information spreading from mainland China, from my understanding, the government there has already planned everything in comprehensive way. So they are just waiting for a right moment. So from my understanding, Chinese government, different agencies have already conducted scientific search surrounding Scarborough Shoal. And they have prepared, because after the last round of land reclamation with this 7 artificial islands, they have become so experienced. So they obviously have completed scientific research surrounding Scarborough Shoal. So in time of necessity, they can come quickly and make it into a big strategic outpost there.
Right.
Yeah, let me just add one more sentence, and basically one more statement. That's also precisely the reason why we are witnessing the U.S., Japan, and Filipino defense cooperation going on. That's precisely the reason.
To basically thwart any efforts by China to militarize that island and change the status quo. On December 30th, 3 Filipino fishermen discovered a suspected Chinese underwater spy drone drifting off Masbate Island in central Philippines. Police Commander Brigadier General Andre Dizon said the approximately 2-meter-long yellow drone marked HY-119 resembled the Chinese Sea Wing Haiyu glider. It's used to track enemy submarines with purposes including other underwater surveillance, oceanographic research and general naval operations. A similar drone was previously spotted in December 2020 by Indonesian fishermen. The Philippine Navy said the drone could have been used for military purposes and is carrying out further analysis to determine its presence there. Ronan, let me stay on you. Okay. So what do you believe the drone was doing, and tell us why, it was in Masbate Island in central Philippines, of all places?
Yeah, so number one, what they're doing, what's the purpose? Very simple, intelligence gathering. Yeah, and oftentimes it's like to land is more a subtle way engaging in intelligence gathering. They are not actually using, military facilities that can be harmful, right? So it's drones, right? But the purpose remains the same, trying to collect useful information in terms of the location. Basically, this island possesses strategic importance in terms of its location. Routes and in terms of business and military purposes can be utilized by getting to know more what's going on under the water relating to this route. So I think it makes perfect sense for Beijing to engage in such an activity.
Similar to what Professor Liu mentioned at the beginning of the show, you said that the Chinese were doing that at the end of 2024 with their Coast Guard ship. So this, do you also believe that they were intelligence gathering? And what do you think a message it sends that this drone, and we saw from the map there, slap bang in the middle of the Philippines?
Number one, because this is an unidentified drone, even if many recognize this may be more closer to Chinese technology, but I don't think any Chinese agency would admit this is their property. But obviously, the second point is this drone was discovered in the middle of the Philippines. It doesn't mean that this drone only operated in this particular area. Obviously, it may have already explored into large sea area, and maybe as a result, it lost its function and swapped into this island.
What do you think it says that it actually managed to breach any defenses that may be existing for the Philippines and get so central into the Philippines, Professor?
I thought that the reason why the Philippines agencies spotted, and the important part is this island just in between two particular geographic important area. On the east, it was Benhen Reach, which is strategically also important. Lately, Chinese government explore frequently. They send their submarine into this particular region.
Why is that strategic, Benhen?
Basically, this is something that right next to Luzon Island and the Pacific Ocean. So this particular Benhen Reach has a strategic meaning. It is suitable for submarine to sail and perhaps to stay around. So passing through, not just going above to Bashi Channel, it is easier to pass through Visayas in the middle, and this island happens to be in the middle of this seaway from Benhen Reach to the other side into South China Sea. So strategically, I can consider this one may carry some military purpose, trying to explore this sea lane passing through the islands. Right. So they want to make sure that in time of necessary, they can really utilize this sea lane passing through the Philippines.
Right, right. So it's like at a strategic crossroads.
Yes.
Essentially, yeah.
Right.
Roman, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I agree with Professor Liu that there's no definite evidence pointing to China, but China is the most likely country to engage in such activity, precisely because of the reason provided by Professor Liu. Because if there's some, intelligence gathering, and if there's going to be some useful information, that's going to be beneficial for China's submarine operations and also their anti-submarine operations in the region. So that is going to be very strategically useful information for the Chinese side. Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap it up now. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Liu Fu-kuo and Ronan Fu, for joining Taiwan Talks today. If you liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching the show today. Stay safe and see you next time.
2025 is calling. Louder, brighter, and bolder. From the roar of the crowds to the quiet moments of triumph. A year to experience sports at its finest. Grab your tickets, tune in, and cheer like never before. Every play counts. Every minute matters. Game on Taiwan.
Taiwan Plus original series, Making Waves Beyond Taiwan. The Pursuit of a Cinematic Dream, Tsai Ming-liang, New York Festival's TV and Film Awards, Bronze Award. A documentary where Tsai reflects on his cinematic process and the future of his career. Road to Legacy, 57th Golden Bell Awards, Best Sound Design. A series that introduces 10 indie artists and bands and their road to musical stardom. More Film Festival approved Taiwan Plus originals. Bringing Taiwan to the world. Only on Taiwan Plus.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for Taiwan Plus.
Taiwan Plus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.